everyone who commanded Enterprise besides Kirk and Picard in Star Trek movies, Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner and Captain Jean-Luc Picard Patrick Stewart may be the most famous captains of the USS Enterprise, but several others commanded the iconic ship in the Star Trek films. On both Star Trek, the original series, and Star Trek, The Next Generation, Captains Kirk and Picard relied on their crew members to take command when necessary. Other bridge officers regularly stepped up to command each version of the Starship Enterprise, but the captain usually returned to take over for any major confrontations or battles. Since the days of Star Trek, the original series, the TV shows of the Star Trek franchise feature ensemble casts. This holds true for the movies as well, and almost every big-screen Star Trek adventure gives all of its main characters moments to shine. Throughout Star Trek's 13 films featuring the USS Enterprise, several characters step up to command the iconic ship, some more obvious choices than others. From Spock Leonard Nimoy / Zachary Quinto to Pavel Chekhov Walter Koenig to William T. Riker Jonathan Frakes, here is everyone who commands the Enterprise in a Star Trek movie besides Kirk and Picard. Sometime after Star Trek, the motion picture, Spock Leonard Nimoy was promoted to captain and began training cadets at Starfleet Academy. As the USS Enterprise had been retired from active service by this point, Spock served as the ship's commanding officer during training drills at the beginning of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Spock later ceded command to Admiral Kirk, however, for the mission to stop Khan Noonien Singh Ricardo Montalban, who stole the planet terraforming Genesis device. In Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, Captain Kirk and Dr. Leonard McCoy DeForest Kelley were arrested for the assassination of Klingon Chancellor Gorkin David Warner. Despite being innocent, Kirk and McCoy were found guilty and sent to the penal colony on Rura Penth. While Kirk and McCoy were falsely imprisoned, Spock took command of the Enterprise and conducted his own investigation. Upon determining that Kirk and McCoy were innocent, Spock rescued them from Rura Penth. Kirk and Spock then worked together with the rest of their crew to ensure the Khitomer Conference happened as planned and to prevent the assassination of the Federation President Kurtwood Smith. A somewhat unexpected crew member of the USS Enterprise gets to command the ship in Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. In Captain James T. Kirk's fifth big-screen adventure, the Enterprise crew members find themselves pulled into a quest to find God on the mythical Vulcan planet of Shakari thanks to Spock's half-brother, Sibuk Lawrence Luckenville. To lure the Enterprise to his location, the villainous Vulcan Sibuk takes several Federation diplomats hostage on Nimbus 3. Upon arriving at the planet, Kirk and most of the senior officers beam down to rescue the hostages. This leaves Commander Pavel Chekhov in command of the Enterprise. Chekhov poses as the ship's captain, demanding that Sibuk release the diplomats he has taken prisoner. In reality, Chekhov is trying to give Kirk, Spock, and their team enough time to complete their rescue mission. Although Kirk and Spock free the hostages, Sibuk discovers the rescue team and later hijacks the Enterprise by manipulating Kirk's crew to join him. Before Sibuk arrives, Chekhov faces off against a Klingon bird of prey, lowering the Enterprise's shields just long enough for the shuttlecraft carrying Kirk's team and Sibuk to enter the shuttle bay. When most people think of the Starship Enterprise, two names loom larger than all others: James T. Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard. They're the iconic faces of leadership in Star Trek history, commanding their crews with charisma, intellect, and courage. But across the vast expanse of Star Trek movies, other captains, both fleeting and firm, have also sat in the big chair. Some commanded out of duty, others by circumstance, and a few through pure necessity. Here's a look at everyone who helmed the Enterprise on the silver screen besides Kirk and Picard. Captain Will Decker, Star Trek, the motion picture 1979. The very first Star Trek movie introduced us to Captain Will Decker, a young officer in charge of the newly refitted USS Enterprise. Decker had been given command while Kirk had been promoted to admiral. However, when a cosmic threat loomed, Kirk pulled rank and took back the captaincy, relegating Decker to executive officer. Still, for a short time, Decker was the Enterprise's rightful commander. His time in the captain's chair was bittersweet, marked by ambition, frustration, and ultimately sacrifice, as he merged with the NDVGR to save Earth. Captain Spock, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, 1982. In The Wrath of Khan, Spock holds the title of captain, not just in spirit but officially. While Kirk returns to oversee training maneuvers aboard the Enterprise, Spock is the vessel's proper commanding officer. Ever the embodiment of logic and humility, Spock willingly steps aside when Kirk's battle experience is needed, without ego or resentment. Spock's tenure highlights a different kind of leadership, one grounded in selflessness and dedication to duty, culminating in his tragic but heroic death to save the ship. Captain Harriman, Star Trek, Generations, 1994. When the USS Enterprise B is launched in Star Trek, Generations, Captain John Harriman is at the helm. Enthusiastic but inexperienced, Harriman struggles when an emergency involving the Nexus energy ribbon imperils the ship. His hesitation and the lack of key equipment on board leaves Admiral Kirk to take charge in critical moments. Tragically, Kirk's actions lead to his presumed death, casting a long shadow over Harriman's early command. Though often portrayed as out of his depth, Harriman represents the pressure young captains face when history comes calling before they're ready. Captain Hikaru Sulu, USS Excelsior, Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, 1991. Technically not a commander of the Enterprise, Hikaru Sulu's promotion to captain of the USS Excelsior deserves an honorable mention. In Star Trek VI, Sulu is a seasoned, confident leader, guiding his ship into dangerous territory to assist the Enterprise during a Klingon crisis. His loyalty to Kirk and the mission proves that Sulu had evolved from helmsman to heroic captain, a journey that Star Trek fans had long anticipated and celebrated. Captain Montgomery's Scott off-screen mention. While never depicted in the movies themselves, it's worth noting that in Star Trek Generations, Scotty refers to himself as Captain Scott. Starfleet tradition often awards the rank of captain to senior officers in honorary fashion or upon retirement. While Scotty's actual command is never shown on screen, his title hints at a career that continued to flourish even after his time aboard the Enterprise. Acting Captain Data, Star Trek Nemesis, 2002. In Star Trek Nemesis, during a perilous encounter with the Romulan warbird Scimitar, Lieutenant Commander Data briefly assumes command of the Enterprise E. With Picard taken hostage, the chain of command passes first to Commander Riker and then to Data. Though his time as captain is brief, Data's actions are crucial. He leads a daring rescue, showcasing a leadership style rooted in precision, courage, and, surprisingly, emotional depth. His final sacrifice mirrors Spock's from decades earlier, proving that true command is measured by willingness to put others before oneself. Captain Riker, Star Trek Nemesis, 2002. While Riker spent most of his Next Generation career as the Enterprise's steadfast first officer, Nemesis marked a turning point. By the film's end, Riker accepts command of the USS Titan, officially leaving the Enterprise behind. While he doesn't take command of the Enterprise itself in the movies, his many moments leading the ship during Picard's absences, especially in First Contact and Insurrection, solidify his credentials. In spirit and action, Riker was often captain even before he got his own ship. Captain Kirk, Chris Pine version, Star Trek 2009 and Beyond, Kelvin Timeline. In the rebooted Star Trek movies directed by J.J. Abrams, a younger, alternate James T. Kirk, played by Chris Pine, rapidly ascends to command of the Enterprise. Though he shares the same name as the classic Kirk, this version faces different,